So guys, here's some of the materials you're going to need to fix a leak or when your drywall actually gets wet. This is the fiberglass drywall tape, and it's the adhesive back. So there are two types. There's this one, which is the adhesive, and then the other one that's paper. Now the paper one is really good for when you're doing corners, so you can fold it in half and push it into the corner so it has a nice precise sharp edge, where this one is really good for exactly what they're showing. You can use it for corners, but it's really nice for when it's a flat surface. Two options with the drywall compound. You have the wet version or the dry version. I actually prefer the dry version because it will last for a long time. This, I find that after a while it dries out, and especially if you forget to put the lid on properly. And I also use the flathead screwdriver to take off the lid, opposed to busting up your fingernails. Now you will need a paintbrush to actually paint the wall, your desired wall color. Now I've been working on my husband to repaint the house, so painting that little ceiling should be a cinch, and it should be a job that's done quickly. You're also going to need sandpaper. Now this grit is a little bit too rough. I was using it for another project. I'm just going to use this piece here, which is about 100, and I'll sand it down, because one of the things when you're using drywall compound, if you can mud properly and just scrape off all that compound, it should leave like a nice thin coat, so it actually blends in with the wall. And so then sometimes you don't even need to sand it, but you're going to have a light sand opposed to having dust all over. Now, as you know, there's always one star of the show, and this would be it. It's called Upshot. So what it is, it's like a primer in one, but it's for the stains on your ceiling, and the instruction says you recoat in 1 hour, and it should work really nicely, so it will hide all those stains so it's not bleeding through your paint. Hey guys, I forgot the most important thing for us ladies, even the gentlemen, this is important too, is you need to protect your hair. Unfortunately, I washed my hands, so you can't see how dry my hands were, but if the drywall dust is going to suck the moisture out of your hands, it's going to do the same thing with your hair. It's going to clog your hair shaft follicles. Even with men, you should really protect yourself. And so one of the things that I do is I protect my hair. I use one of these, and generally I actually use a silk scarf wrap, and then I would come up with this. Now you can either or use this or the both. I generally do the two. I have my wrap, and then I use this. This is plastic at the bottom, and then the fabric. And one of the good things about using this is at the end, instead of whipping it off your hair like this, you can turn up these portions and then have the drywall dust inside and throw it out. Alright guys, so this is my second attempt of recording the box. I didn't explain it properly, and I've already completed the project. So I started using a box because when I first drywalled, I did not cover up where I was drywalling. Drywall dust got everywhere. And then when I stuccoed, I needed a place to put the stucco, and I created the box, and that's what I use now whenever I have to drywall a ceiling, or so I use drywall compound in a ceiling and sanding it down, because look at all of that. Now that would go into your air, into your lungs. That's what you'd be breathing in. It would also be all over your furniture. We have something called the rainbow, and look how much, do you see how milky the water is? That's how much of the drywall dust it collected. So here's our emergency repair, and why it's an emergency is because it actually leaked, and now those bits and pieces are falling down, which is from the drywall. So what happened is, in our main bathroom on the second floor, they did not level the tub, and so every time you're taking a shower, if you're not careful and if you go a little bit overboard, the water will flow over, go into the joist, and this is where it ends up. I've actually repaired this from before, from the previous owner. I had to put the turpentine on it so to ensure that it didn't bleed through, but I've also taken down the stucco, so that's why the ceiling kind of looks the way it looks. But right now we're gonna focus on this so that the bits and pieces of the drywall don't keep falling down on us. But you can't just scrape it and then put drywall compound and paint over top of it, because what will happen is that the watermarks, which you can see some of the watermarks is coming through again, the watermarks actually will bleed through your paint and all of that work would be done for naught. So what I'm gonna show you is how to do it. So what you wanna do is just go in and scrape these pieces off, okay? See how easy it comes off? You wanna scrape it all off so that it's flat, okay? See, now I've just finished scraping all that I need to scrape, and I'm gonna putty it now. Now with the puttying, I prefer to do the putty, fill it, smooth it down, and then actually put the turpentine over top of that, opposed to doing that now. I could probably do two batches of turpentine, put it on now, then putty, and then do it again. But I think I'm just going to try and fix and repair the ceiling, because you see how bad the drywall flaked, right? So for my tape, guys, I went and I cut it. I have to use 2 hands, but I measured it out to where I wanted it to start, and then I'm gonna put it up. Okay, it should stick, and I'll be back. Okay guys, this is only my first coat. I'm actually gonna do this coat, which is actually a little bit heavier than I wanted. And then I'm going to sand it and do a real thinner coat and then go a little bit thinner. Now, this was a mess and I was trying to fix it, but I didn't want to do it too long. So I'm gonna let this dry, and then I will do a light sand, come back, do another drywall coat, and look at this blending. Ooh, look at this blending. So guys, I've finished. Oh my goodness. Look at that. Da-da-da-da. It's the lighting. Yeah, there it is. So I'm gonna tackle the rest of the wall. But yeah, that's it. It's done. And that's the lighting. I don't know what I took from before, but there you go. There's the stairs, kind of the same angle, so you see that it's done. And there you go. That's it. Ah, beautiful. So hi guys, I wanted to come in at the end and give you guys some learning tips. And so I do not do construction work, but back in the day, I used to help with a project. A friend was doing a residential project and I used to be the project manager, and I learned some tricks about drywalling there. And I used to also work with someone else. I just can't remember who and what it was. But when you're using drywall, this is called a finishing knife. And depending on the width of the project, you would use a bigger one, or I prefer this size. I find that it's just a little bit easier for me to manage. Now, when you're putting drywall compound on a drywall joint, you make sure you have the compound on the tip of it. And that's the way I do it. I also actually leave a little bit on the sides because it will spread out, and you put it on an angle. You're not going to have your fingers here, but I'm just showing you. And then you would rub it on. The box is not even, so let's do that again here. And then you would rub it on, right? See that? And you would keep on, of course, going around onto the joint until it's completed. And if you leave a little bit at the side, you won't have those pieces that are going to fall off on the ground. So just remember, you're just going to hold it and rub and keep doing it until it's nice and flat. It will spread out evenly. The side pieces here, when you're doing the compound, you don't want them thick. You want it actually really thin, and that will reduce the amount of dust that or drywall compound you have to sand. That will reduce the amount of dust, okay? And there you go. The other tip I have is when you're sanding, and I did end up using this big, huge sander. I just found it was easier at the time, and then I had to go back in with the small one. This one leaves too much lines in your drywall. So when you're sanding, and you're sanding in the ceiling, do not sand and then move the thing away. Because you're sanding upside down, you're gonna have a lot of dust in here. When you quickly move it away, the dust goes flying in the air. So try and remember, you sand, all of the dust will fall down. Hold it up there and then just slowly tilt it into your box, and that will reduce the amount of dust that's flying in the air.